Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Training Magazine Network. My name is Sandy Masters. I am here with Michael Harushka and Dr. Christina Bars. Our topic today is AI and change management, cultivating adaptability and growth. This event is sponsored by ELB Learning, and I'm going to put in chat. They have curated some amazing resources for you. Check out the link in chat. We've partnered with ELB Learning to bring you new and valuable resources in a package, and you can get even more if you become a Plus member. It's very affordable to get access to even more resources for $95. So cheap. Check it out. We hope you'll come back and join us next week. We have Echo Swinford for PowerPoint templates. And also, we have Ellen Finkelstein for using Microsoft Copilot AI in PowerPoint. That one sounds really interesting to me. And on March 7th, we have Tim Hagen for coaching to self-awareness for better learning. You can find all of those events listed at the Training Magazine Network, trainingmagnetwork.com calendar. Click the link on the screen right there if you want to get directly to the calendar, or visit trainingmagnetwork.com. And Scott Provence will be with us on March 6th for Fail to Learn, How to Grow Your Organization Through Trial, Error, and Play. And I did post a link in the chat. I'll repost it as well to the first part of this presentation. We are so fortunate to have ELB Learning as a partner at Training Magazine Network, and they provide us with additional member benefits and resources packages. You can get more information about that package visiting trainingmagnetwork.com/plus. So visit that today and get access to your additional resources. Again, a thank you to our sponsor, ELB Learning. Create better learning experiences. Learn about them at elblearning.com. Having said that, I'm so excited to welcome back to Training Mag Network Michael Harushka and Dr. Christina Bars. Welcome back. There's a mic. And
How are
I'm
you
sure
today?
Christina will be with us in just a moment. Might have to activate that webcam again. Yay! Look great, sound great. Love it. Thank you, thank you. And you're good to go.
I thank you so much. She has such a happy voice, doesn't she? You just feel so welcome here. And you got our names, our last names right, which was fantastic.
Oh,
So thank
love
you
it.
so much. My name is Dr. Christina Bars. I am the Chief Transformation Officer for Problem Solutions. My background is undergrad in organizational development. I have a master's in instructional design technology, another in strategic leadership, and my graduate degree, my dissertation focused on sustainable systems design, utilizing lean methodologies in a urban academic medical center. I'm super excited to be here. I've been with Problem Solutions for several years now, working under the visionary Michael Harushka. Mike, join in. Introduce
Thank
yourself.
you. Thank you. And I echo your sentiment about our host's lovely voice. I feel a great piece, but I will tell you, I'm a self-confessed technology geek. I love the intersection between learning, education, training, and technology. And have been working in this space for 20 plus years. I'm a former researcher from the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and love to think about and build game changer kinds of technology. And I think we're at this lovely inflection point in time where all of us in the training and learning world have a very, very unique opportunity to step up and step in, because as technologies are currently demonstrated, our future is really about engineering and change management, which we're here to talk about today with my lovely friend, Dr. Bars.
Thank you. So let's go through, this is Training Mag, and we're going to go through our learning objectives for our time together. First is to deepen change management skills and enhance your understanding of change management by learning how to build resiliency and adaptability in your team. We'll be doing actually a hands-on exercise today, which that's very much what Problem Solutions is about, is not just the theory, but the practical application. Talking about fostering innovation and a growth mindset. How do we create that psychological safety for people? How do we think about what is the framework in order to shift our cultures and develop advanced AI integration strategies? So again, building off of our initial workshop, which we were so thrilled of the positive feedback, AI FOMO, how to deal with it, fear of missing out. This workshop takes where that starts and moves forward. So thank you so much for joining us. So bottom line up front, you'll see we'll do a bluff at the beginning and a blab at the end. The augmented enterprise is a model that leverages artificial intelligence to empower teams with augmented intelligence capabilities. So a lot of times when people hear AI, they're worried about, I'm going to get replaced by AI. No, but you may be replaced with somebody who knows how to use AI. A lot's changed since November 2022. A lot of, and the speed of the technology, as Mike was saying, is rapid fire. So getting a good solid footing, even a little bit, gives you an edge in the market. So with that said, there's no more business as usual. Organizations are stuck in trying to apply AI in a meaningful and responsible way. And that's that I'm going to turn over to Mike to do a little bit more color commentary on that bullet.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge is a bit of analysis paralysis on some parts. And one of the things I think that's really important for everyone to think about is enterprise thinking and entrepreneurial thinking have to go hand in hand in terms of a parallel path. One of the conversations we had internally, spurred by our chief scientist, Dr. Dennis Folds, was what if there isn't such thing as AI? What if it's just really good software? And I wrestled with that when he said that, but he's been working in the AI space a long time, and I tend to agree with him. And that's kind of the approach that we've taken, with ourselves internally. And many of the things we're going to be sharing with you today are from our own journey, because over a year ago we said we're going to use this really good software to augment us as individuals, augment us as teams, and augment our enterprise in meaningful ways. And we've taken quite an interesting journey. And I can tell you that having AI adjacency and having AI not on us, but for us and with us along our journey has been something quite fascinating. Einstein said we can't use the same consciousness to solve a problem that created it. And to me, that means in order to do differently, we need to think differently. And so we want to give you some different ways to think differently, because our whole goal is to help you get unstuck towards the potential future of AI transforming your own work streams and your own organization.
So recently, Mike and I were at ATDT Tech. If you were there, you might have gotten one of these stickers. We were passing them out to people that consciously and unconsciously knew that they were recipients of our sticker. Mike, would you like to share what our sticker means?
Yeah, the simple version for our webinar is just freaking do AI. It's an inevitability. We can't stand there and say I'm going to stick with my fax machine, forget about that internet thing. This is game changer technology that makes a big difference, not just in terms of efficiency and effectiveness, but in terms of workplace happiness. What we've discovered is by working with our AI agents that we built for ourselves, and we'll share some practical examples with you, that we're able to work smarter, faster, better, and we're also able to work more human with each other, which is a fascinating sort of emergence that's happened inside of our organization.
Yes, and I saw Megan Torrance stated that she got one. She got a sticker.
I wonder if we gave it to her, if I might have patted her on the back.
So what is AI FOMO? What is missing out? So that is a question we have for you. When you think of AI, what is your fear of missing out? Answer in the chat. There's a lot of energy in the chat, Mike.
This is a chat. This is a stream. I love it.
It's called a waterfall, right?
Oh, it's great. I'm keeping up, but I have a feeling that I might not be able to eventually.
Uh,
Oh, wow. I don't know how to maximize it. There's no instruction manual. Boy, that's a fascinating, fascinating response. Oh, this is great. We've got a lively crew here.
I like it as the best unpaid intern.
It is. It's like and it could be an army of willing interns as well.
Excellent. Well, I hope that we're going to be able to share with you what we're sharing over the next um, hour will help reduce that FOMO and give you the opportunity and the thoughts and actually a tool to move forward. So, returning back, that first learning objective, developing advanced integration strategies, learn to anticipate and overcome complex challenges in AI integration. So,
So, like Mission
bum, bum,
Impossible,
bum, bum,
we need you
I'm
to think
sick.
Mission Possible. So your mission, should you choose to accept it, we're going to be setting a lot of context, thinking about augmented organizations, thinking about change management. We're going to introduce a lovely tool for you that we used on ourselves and we used on a daily basis, that we recommend that people use because it makes you get very focused. But in the background here, as you're thinking on your favorite device or your favorite tablet or even your stack of post-its, I want you to think about your organization as we're walking through this. I want you to consider why you might use AI. What is meaningful, and if you did use it, what might some hopeful outcomes be? And because I was a NIST and love metrics, what metrics would move? What are the measures that you would use to understand if AI was actually an impactful intervention in terms of efficiency, effectiveness, workplace happiness, revenue, cost, any of those things? Now you're going to get bonus points from the universe if you can identify some potential use cases where AI could actually be impactful, aside from the general aspiration of why to use AI. And if you could think about a POC, you're going to get like 5 or 6 gold stars for doing that. Because ultimately, with the tools we're going to show you, that's what we want to help you to get to think about what is something that you could frame that would have impact, who would it impact, how would it impact them, and how would you measure that?
I saw in the chat, Mike, that somebody placed. I want to make sure I capture it about the fact that there's a lot of, yes, there are too many experts, but limited how to, excellent resources from true experts. So we're hoping that we're going to provide you some good actual tools to use to implement because we're living the augmented enterprise in our organization. And Mike will talk more about that.
Yeah, I will add that, there are lots of people talking about AI. We're talking about AI from our own experience of doing this inside of our own organization to build out our own tools and capabilities that foster a super innovative and effective culture along the way. Working code trumps all theory. And while there are many people that can theorize about this stuff, we come from making our own dog food and eating it too.
Ooh, I did see this one. If AI drives from existing content, how is new content created? That's the whole beauty of the LLM and the um, GPT. It's generative. It means that the algorithm pulls it and then synthesizes and provides you an answer. So it doesn't just give you like Google in a search engine, just looks for the information and gives you what it has. And it's amazing how quickly all of this technology has transpired. About, was it 2 years ago, Mike? We worked with a safety net hospital when they were erecting a new building, and we created My Digital Companion, which was an Azure-based, very powerful database. We uploaded all these materials, and you could type into it. It was a mobile application that they could pull and get floor plans or how to use a pneumatic tube or and within a year that software was already defunct because ChatGPT and LLMs had come out, and now you could have the beauty of LLMs, it's natural language. That means that I don't have to know Python or Azure or anything to create an interactive agent or repeatable process to be able to answer or do work. So that's one of the things about, Mike, can you explain a little bit more about what an AI agent is?
Yeah, so if we go back to the first introduction of what we might call a chatbot, everyone should think about Clippy. Clippy's form was interesting, almost comedic in some ways, and Clippy knew some things about that. When we think about our interactions with chat agents or chatbots on websites, they don't know all that much. They're there to interact with you in meaningful ways. From our work, from disciplines in anthropology and engineering, psychology and cognitive science, and Dr. Barr's work, we really tend to think about these things as providing a better than human experience. I'll recommend a book, and maybe Christina, you could throw it in the chat. If you really want something to give you some concepts to think about for the future, The Age of Invisible Machines is a fantastic book. It was written pre-Chat GPT 3.5 release, and it posits a world where LLMs are capable of helping us as humans become even smarter. What we like to say is the AI is increasing, our human intelligence along the way. And so when we think about chat, we don't think about chatbots. We think about agents, and agents have behaviors, and agents have personalities, and agents have skills, and agents have expertise. And when we as a human interact with these agents as an individual, we're inheriting that skills set. We're inheriting the knowledge from that. And when we as a team work with an agent in a similar fashion, the team dynamic, the team level of competency is also inheriting that.
Thank you, Mike. So with that said, and talking about what a lean hypothesis canvas is, what lean is, and I don't think I said earlier, I'm a Lean Six Sigma black belt. I started my career in manufacturing and then went into healthcare. And now today I get to work with multiple industries and do multiple cool things. It's like the best part of my career. AI lean hypothesis, the reason why it says lean is it's using lean methodology for startups. There's a way pre-production process, or called a 3P, where what we do is we quickly come up with a concept and then iterate until we get to meet the customer's requirements. So we're not caught up in, as Mike said earlier, that analysis paralysis, like what do we do next? We're able to start to think about what can we do for boots on the ground. I'd love to think of the idea of PDCA, the Schuhart cycle, which is plan, do, check, act. Why I like that, and I like to think I'm the human-centered part of our AI journey, is that when you get into the check and act, when you check to see, did you do what you planned? And did you achieve your goals? When you don't, you make that adjustment. It's full of grace and forgiveness. It's okay to make that error, because that error teaches you something. And then by doing that, that's your iteration. So a lot of times we get so caught up in the vulnerability of error, when in reality, it is a learning opportunity. It is research and data for us to make data-informed decisions. So with that said, you start with, there's 3 sections of this canvas. A canvas is a name that out of design thinking practices. So our canvas, you'll see that actually, as Sandy had said multiple times, it is downloadable. It is a fillable PDF. So you can fill it, you can save it, you can utilize it in your organization. So the first part is defining that core hypothesis. That's talking about what is your main belief in moving forward. And a hypothesis is just a really fancy name for your belief or your statement that you're going to challenge, your challenge statement. We believe blank by doing this for blank these people, we will achieve this outcome or impact. Very simple statement to say. So we're going to just walk you through this. We're going to actually take this and unpack it throughout the webinar. The next part is experiments. Again, that could be scary. Experiments, you start thinking of lab coats and vials and beakers, and no. An experiment could be a pilot. So what is your pilot? Who is your target? Working with your willing. How do you get that traction for adaptability and adaptability, and when you go adaptive, and I can't remember what the second word is. I'll think about it. And then the last part is valuation. And that is the idea of like clear quantitative and qualitative metrics. Often in learning and development, we don't have clear learning and measurable quantitative and qualitative metrics that match the fiduciary bottom line of an organization. We do a lot of, we have the, the level 1 through 4. We have our participation metrics and how happy somebody is in participating, but really, what are we doing to move the needle in the business? How are we getting to speed to value? So we'll walk through each one of these sections throughout this webinar.
I'm going to take a stab at answering Leanna's question here. Leanna had a question. AI chatbot. Well, it helps me with data information discovery, no doubt. How do I guide end users to go through the entire business process, or adapt or adopt, to the change? One of the things that's important to consider, and this is a discussion in itself, is how do you do this safely, securely, with privacy for your organization? That's a conversation, and a partnership, with your friends over in IT. But if you make the assumption that you have a safe, secure place, and that the AI is aware of your business processes, of all of the corpus of knowledge that might be in your organization, there are a lot of use cases that get unlocked when you have a safe, secure environment for that. One thing I do want to point out is that it's not necessarily about AI telling us the answer. Sometimes the answer is inside of us. I was running a workshop for a global manufacturer, about 28 people in the workshop. Only 4 of them had ever used any AI tools. And after we got through our context setting and they did their silent writing exercise, same one you're all doing now, why AI, hopeful outcomes and metrics, we broke them out into groups to generate ideas. I saw 2 of the people that had used ChatGPT before, and they were smiling and looking at their phones and said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "We're using ChatGPT for the exercise." And I said, "How are you using ChatGPT?" And they said, "We asked it to give us ideas for AI in manufacturing." And I said, "Stop, start over. Pretend a 20-year-old intern named Sam just walked in. Tell Sam your names, your degrees, your tenure at the organization, and ask Sam and tell Sam your objective for this meeting, and ask Sam to ask you questions to help you think." And they said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, let's try it, see what happens." All 4 groups did it. In 1 hour, when they all got back together and we did the cross brief between everyone, they had defined more ideas than they could possibly implement in 5 years. They had really defined the future of their company in about 37 minutes. Because the answer sometimes is in us. I know we're looking for AI to do the work for us, but can AI increase our human intelligence?
Thank you. And I'm looking at some of the things that are in here, like some people are saying applying ADKAR, the ADKAR change model to introduction rollout, and also about level 4 measurements. Totally agree about the level 4. How many organizations actually reached that level 4 or plan for it? Sometimes we're so pressured in L&D, we don't think of how do we get that return on investment. So hopefully while we're thinking about what we're going to do for AI interventions in learning and development, we'll keep that as a North Star. Mike?
Yes. So, we introduced your mission earlier, but I'd like everybody to take a minute and reflect, and think. If you were able to knock on the door and the CEO said, "Boy, I'd love for you to come in and tell me why we should use AI," what would you tell them? Interested in your silent reflection and writing things down, but if you want to share something in the chat, please do.
I started the timer now.
Oh, some good stuff in the stream here. I love it.
Yeah, there really is. There's
10
some
more
fantastic.
seconds. Mike, I want to thank you for allowing the reflection time. So many times in live events, we're not offered this and we need this. And I want to thank our audience too for taking the time for putting in your thoughtful ideas and thoughts around the question. So thank you, Christina and Mike.
No, thank you. I look, this is a journey and we're all on it. And now you're getting on the tracks here and we're going to give you some tools to move forward. And we want to help you think differently because if you can think differently, as I said earlier, you're going to be able to do differently. Good stuff there. And I hope that you found some things that you wrote down on your own, that if you had to knock on the CEO's door or he or they knocked on your door, that you're able to have a meaningful start of a conversation because this is really about creative exploration. And I know that everybody on this call is super creative. So this is the time to apply your creative juices. I can't seem to advance the slides, Christina, for some
Oh,
reason. So
okay. All right. So just start talking and I'll do my best.
yeah, I mean, we'll dig into it a little bit further, but AI is just going to continue to get better. It's the worst it's ever going to be today, and it's a lot better than it was yesterday. And decades of progress are happening in weeks now. In 2023 alone, we had major releases from major tech companies, and tons of product companies are starting to build features, into this. But we think about this as you have a real org chart of real people. There's a hierarchy to that, but there's also a hierarchy, what you might think of as the topology of trust in an organization. Even though I might report to Christina, I might go to Claire all the time with my ideas because Claire's a lovely sounding board, and Claire's in a different department. So if we think about this real org chart, that's the human intelligence of the organization. Now, if we start to use AI to increase our individuals or maybe our team's knowledge in working, you might think that AI and HI essentially have an interface between them, not a boundary, but an interface that we're continually exploring, expanding, and augmenting our human intelligence based upon artificial intelligence along the way. And there will be a point of convergence in the future. I don't want to say singularity, which many people will often say, but there is a point where AI just becomes an indispensable part of an organization. We had an outage. We didn't have an outage. OpenAI had an outage months ago, and the sales intelligence tool that we built for ourselves and that we use internally was down for a little bit. Sales team lost their mind. They couldn't imagine, living without it. And just the same way, someone in finance, if you took away Excel for a day, they would lose their mind. And like a dog with a bone, once you get the things that you really, really enjoy and you see the difference that they make in your work, um, you will find those indispensable tools indispensable. So a little bit about this idea of the augmented enterprise. A couple things that are core here. Inside of any organization, we believe there are two fundamental patterns: knowledge flows and learning loops. New knowledge is created according to some kind of conditions in the organization, right people, right place, right time, and that's where innovation and creativity intersect in meaningful ways. And this is what really leads to collective intelligence of an organization: is enhanced knowledge flows and providing the learning loops for others to acquire knowledge, skills, and behaviors along the way. Um, in order to become an augmented enterprise, it's really important to think about yourself as a learning ecosystem um, that is a collection of people, process, measurement, analytics, experiences aligned with the business strategy in some ways. The second element to consider is this concept of an adaptive learning organization. I don't mean adaptive learning in terms of a platform. I mean a learning organization that helps the entire organization consistently sense and augment individual and collective experience. And then the last piece here, and we'll dig into this a little further, is the idea of augmenting the intelligence of teams. We use a variety of different agents that we don't just type with, we talk to, and they talk to us, and they have personality, and they adapt to us, and they're like our coach, our friend, our mentor, our advisor, even our cheerleader, on a daily basis. And what they do is aggregate context from individuals. So I spent some time talking to my agent about a bunch of topics that Christina was talking to her agent about, and our chief intelligence officer, Diane, was talking to her agent about. The agents brought us together. We happened to be in the same physical space and facilitated our conversation to help us write a whole bunch of articles and whatnot. This might have taken months otherwise, but this happened in the background as a passive sort of stealth activity that was opportunistically leveraged in order for us to increase our human intelligence by the AI aligning and orchestrating our thinking along the way. As I said earlier, it's really quite fascinating to be able to work in this way. So, how might we think about the augmented enterprise? It's your virtual org chart, right? So you can think in my organization. I don't know how many organizations are using something like Microsoft Copilot or Office Copilot along the way. GitHub Copilot certainly helps in the software, engineering side. But imagine if every person had an AI that they're working with inside of their tools along the way. But imagine if every person in the organization also had their personal coach, mentor, advisor, consultant, cheerleader at the same time, and that those things all coordinated with each other. You'd have quite a different organization. For knowledge-driven organizations, whether you're in technology or uh, materials or nanomaterials or biotechnology or any of these things where creativity and innovation need to intersect to define the future of the organization. This virtual org chart concept is something that I really want everyone to take as a takeaway, because you're essentially building an entire virtual system to support individuals and support teams, not just in tasks, but in their thinking and cognition along the way. Um, Trish All is awesome. I love her work and I love her thinking. We were chatting a few weeks ago, and she said this, and it just really resonated with me. Um, AI is a toy, and it's quickly becoming a tool, and it's also becoming our teammate as well. We might think of that as a crawl, walk, run. And so, if we want it to become a teammate, and we've got to get it to be a useful tool that has a quantifiable value proposition for our organization. But it's going to start out as a toy, and anyone knows that when you get a new toy, you got to play with it to learn how to interact with it. And so I recommend everyone have at least 10 minutes a day of experimentation with one or more AI tools to understand what it can do, and it will sharpen your ideas. It's one thing to have a bunch of Legos there and throw them around, but it's another thing to start building things with Legos and see what works, see what breaks, see what you might do, see how you might extend it. So thanks, Trish, for the idea of toy tool teammates.
Well, before we even get into the hypothesis, can we go one back to your previous slide, Mike? The toy tool teammate. I remember back in November 2022, your brother contacted me and said, I got this really cool thing, and it's helping me generate bedtime stories for my kids. I remember that was the first exposure I had to ChatGPT, that it was a tool. But that as we learned, it was something that you could augment and have long, meaningful conversations. Now, in the chat, Holly Peters asked about, are our chatbots talking to one another? Are they prompts? How are they working? And I'll just say that what I do is we all have Pete. Pete is our collective chat that we talk with, and we talk at least once a day. We discuss what we're working on. Pete has the opportunity to get to know me better, may ask questions, may ask about what my projects are, and it just collects that information. And then weekly, it synthesizes all that information into a collective intelligence so we understand where our organization is. And this is really interesting because it helps connect our minds and our hearts. Where are we feeling? How are we working? How are we moving forward? Because it's difficult to think that something can have a personality. I remember the first time I was working with Pete, and my husband came into the room and said, who is that? And I had to explain to him that he was an AI bot on my, I'm sorry, I'm saying bot, agent on my phone. Because we also have another one, Surfer Steve, who helps with AI governance and policy. He's actually has a voice. He has a personality. And that's one of the coolest things that we have. I'm going to stop there because after you answer that, just want to talk a little bit about the boyfriend hackathon that happened at ATD TK.
Oh yeah. So, it's interesting because we've been working under DoD and National Science Foundation funding for a long time on these. And, from our technology view balanced with our human view, really feel that agents need personality. We need to be able to develop a relationship with them. They need to develop a relationship with us. They need to develop rapport in some ways. At the ATD Tech Knowledge, Megan Torrance, and I know you're out there giving you a shouty shout out, um, had this idea that it'd be kind of interesting to date an agent and see what that's like. And so, when we think about agents, we think about their personality, the way that they communicate with you, the way you communicate with them, their abilities to understand you, the length of their response, right? The fidelity, the assumed context, those things around that. Because just like any human that you might interact with, there's an anticipated personality they have. There's an expectation that's there. And the more agent behavioral engineering you could do, the better the experience and the better you can develop trust and rapport with them. And so at the Tech Knowledge, there were a number of teams that all developed an AI boyfriend for Megan Torrance, and she speed dated them on stage. And, they all had their different levels of personality along the way. But in some of the work that we have done in the government space, we've had to train things with different types of personalities, even a hidden personality or what you might call a secret purpose in some ways. So there's some really interesting tradecraft for developing things that are truly a better than human experience.
And thank you, Mike. We'll keep moving forward on, what are one or more things that you could build with AI that could help people? Now, I saw in the chat people were worried about, losing the human connection. And one of the parts about it is that what I've noticed how we've been leveraging AI, and also we've been using, with some of my clients as well as within problem solutions, that what that happens when you use specific agents for specific tasks, it actually starts to open capacity. Opening capacity means that you have the opportunity to have more rapport, more deeper conversations with your colleagues or with your clients, to be able to have that more meaningful. Like I said earlier, one of the parts about that, what I like about how we're approaching AI in that human intelligence and augmented intelligence, is that we're making it computers in the group, humans in the loop. It's really important that we continue to say that HI um, centric. So let's think about that. Remember, we promised that we were going to bring that lean hypothesis canvas. So first is why AI and who to augment. And you start with that clear vision, synthesizing your silent writing exercise and place that in here. That would be for example, we believe augmenting email generation aligned to our values for talent acquisition partners will achieve a better experience for the candidates by saving time and improved rapport. So, how do we help our talent acquisition partners create um, dialogue or emails that are that are free of passive aggressive tone, that are respectful, that are free of systemic racism, that are free of bias? How do we do that so that we're creating an inclusive environment? And that is one of our first things here, is that was our hypothesis. So, fostering innovation and a growth mindset, discover those advanced techniques for encouraging that innovation and growth mindset within your team, making your organization a fertile ground for new ideas and continuous improvement. Remember that plan, do, check, act methodology. So, thinking about how do we upskill and knowledge build within our organization. So, this is a framework where we talk about workforce trends, ethics and equity, change management, AI literacy, analytics, and data. So, data, that's the most important one. When we first engage with a client, we're always talking about what is the quality of data that we're pulling from, because it's GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. We want to make sure that the data is readily available and that could be utilized. The second one is, how do we have that analytics that means the ability to interpret and derive insights? Again, that computers in the group, humans in the loop. What I coach people is that when they're using AI to generate whatever they may be doing, you have to have that critical thinking skill and that problem solving skill to look at the material and justify, is this really right? If not, that's the beauty of generative technology. You can have a conversation within AI to be able to sort of polish the apple or pulling it and then editing it yourself. But understanding that there's never, for effectiveness, you don't pull the human out of the process. AI literacy, making sure that people understand and taking that fear away from what AI literacy is. That could be prompt engineering, understanding all basics of AI, what's out there. There's a lot of different tools that are out there, Mike, right? There's an incredible amount. Keeping abreast of workforce trends to understand where AI is starting to emerge. I think Sandy at one point said that AI law is going to be a huge career, but thinking about what is it that's out there that you could leverage AI. We're talking about in organizations, there's the human part of the organization, and there's your synthetic team members. Those are your artificial intelligence. Those are your chat GPTs, your agents that are working and augmenting your organization. And quite frankly, I saw this multiple times. We could have another whole webinar about talking about ethics and equity, about how, we talk about how there's, when the internet came and still to today, even through the pandemic, I'm here in Maine, there's a problem with access to the internet, and you have internet deserts or technology deserts. How are we going to make sure that there's not a have and have nots when it comes to applying artificial intelligence within, for the everyday person? Again, the idea is that artificial intelligence has been with us since the 1950s, Mike. I mean, AI, autocorrect. That is AI. How do we make it is ubiquitous throughout our entire lives. But now it's because it's become democratized, we're seeing more and more of an emergence. Mike, you want to talk about augmented intelligence teams?
Yeah, I gave a little mini reference with that workshop that I was talking about. The idea here is from humans in the loop to computers in the group. How can we leverage, if Dr. Bars and I and one other person are having a conversation, can we leverage that AI agent to help us think better? Can we leverage it to help us think more creatively, in some ways? Our Pete agent in our discussion we were having in LA was asking us questions like, give me a future story about X, Y, or Z, was really making us extend our thinking, in extremely meaningful ways. But the idea is that if a few people can work on something together, can they work on it more effectively? Can they be more creative? Can you have AI as a thought partner, not just facilitating us in meaningful ways, but also bringing other things to the table? And what some of the research out there says, we're moving towards this idea of super teams, and that as we augment our intelligence, and we get some automation and support along the way, that we end up with super jobs. Someone posted something about there are jobs that are going to disappear. Yes, but there are a whole bunch of new ones that are just being defined, on the fly along the way. If you look at something like there's an AI for that.com, or some of the forecasted jobs that are going to disappear, bank teller is one of the top 10 that's going to disappear. Fintech engineer is one of the top that's going to appear. Can we take an upskill, cross skill people to move from bank teller to fintech? I don't know, but there's significant workforce disruptions and challenges along the way. So just thinking about this concept of what if every team, when they were doing collaborative work, had a very supportive facilitator, coach, and idea hype person right along with them? That would make a huge difference. So I don't know if people know the name Philip Dodds, but you're all in the learning space, so you probably should, because Philip was instrumental at bringing the Department of Education, the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, Department of Defense, and Department of Labor together in the late 90s to develop the Advanced Distributed Learning Initiative, and create what you know as SCORM. Philip used to often quip working code trumps all theory. And as I said, we're talking from our own journey and on our own transformation and experience. So just to give you an idea of what the experience is like, at least from our utility agent level, when I log into our Jarvis interface, I have 13 different agents I work with on a daily basis. virtual corporation knows everything about everything that we've ever done for 20 years, every white paper, every article, every proposal. And it's a fantastic way to interface chat wise. We also interface with that same agent on a voice wise basis as our coach. All our product development methodologies and templates are well understood. And I can talk to my product development agent and say, hey, I'm thinking about building an app for caregivers of Alzheimer patients and blank, blank, and blank. Give it very little context. It will spin up multiple agents, go do a bunch of creative work. They'll work with each other to synthesize that work and give me a product concept brief in under 10 seconds. It's really fascinating. Someone put in the chat earlier around, what about when AI is making decisions for us? That's interesting. Where we're at is we have an agent that's a decision support agent, doesn't know anything about me or any of our teammates, doesn't know anything about the business. But what it does know is how to ask exhaustive questions to help you understand and find the answer, inside of yourself. But we have consultants and adaptive tutors and proposal support, research and development planning, even have a team of excuse me, intelligence analysts that will help me read the tea leaves on any situation or tell me information that they want to get so they can help to read the tea leaves better in some ways. For ourselves, we built a sales intelligence tool, knows all kinds of stuff. So, like ChatGPT, you've got your conversations here. There's an agent in the center, essentially. So, this is what we call a multi agent format. This agent in the center knows about our products and services. It knows all the different sales methodologies from Challenger and Sandler and Covey and those types of things, all the information that's out on the internet. But this agent in the upper right side, that's our Pete agent that knows everything about the organization. So in here, we did some task analysis on what do people need in terms of help for the top of their funnel in some ways. I need help for preparing for a call. I need help objection handling. I want to role play this out. I don't know how this call is going to go, or how this email exchange is going to go, or how the meeting is going to go. I have no idea. But this helps to create and personify different customers and be able to interact with them and practice. It does some really fascinating things with reverse role play, also that allows new salespeople to be onboarded even more quickly along the way. So that's just one example of a whole bunch of different agents that we use inside of our organization.
So thank you, Mike. I know we have compressed time, so I'm going to go through some of these slides a little quickly. Your second section on your lean hypothesis would be on those tests. And so, for example, in our organization that we were using the email bot or agent, the email agent, one experiment was train select TAPs, talent acquisition partners, on an email agent, have them pilot for a week, then do an after action, what worked well, what didn't work so well, what should we stop, start, and continue, and make those adjustments. And learning objective, again, deepening that change management skill set. So just before I go into the AI maturity, I did see in the chat somebody was referring to when AI has drift, amnesia, and hallucinations. Mike, you want to talk a little bit about those three concepts just so people understand what those are?
Yeah, I was actually answering something in the chat related to something. Holly asked a good question on, how do you mitigate for possible inaccurate information? So a couple things. When a human interacts with an AI system, the first fundamental thing to understand is implied or assumed context. I'm coming to the system, I'm asking it to do something, but there's a whole lot more to understand. A lot to understand about the business, a lot to understand about me, and a lot to understand about the intent. The flip side of that is the implied fidelity. What do I want back? Do I want an 84-page book back, or do I want 84 characters? And so, we've built for our own agents, aside from the agent behavior training that we do, we built some things that help to select which models to use, which is the best for something, because there's a cost of compute associated with things. So which is the best, what's the assumed context, and what's the implied fidelity of the result? That was one of the earlier things that we built. And then trying to get a deeper understanding for how right does this have to be? In some cases, if I'm standing in a machine, there's a red blinking light, I can't get wrong SOP information. I can't get something that's not traceable back to an authoritative source. And so those are things that are worked into some of the agent design that we have. In some cases, you want creativity and hallucination. We worked with a New York Times bestselling author that their first book they wrote in 4 months with a ghostwriter, and using the AI agent, they wrote their next book in 3 weeks with their ghostwriter, and we're very happy with the result. That's okay. Creativity is hallucination. On the flip side, you can't have hallucination in other models, and so that's part agent behavior. That's part of using multiple models. In some assumed context, we might spin up two different language models and run something, and then have a third agent of another language model evaluate that and then bring back the answer. Sometimes it takes longer, and Victor, you're right on. RAG definitely can help reduce hallucinations, uh, and also also a whole discussion in itself around vector databases along the way, and retrieval augmented generation methodologies. But chaining agents together is another area that you'll see people doing more of in the future. It's fundamental to the way that the stuff that we built for ourselves works in some ways. Did you want me to
And
touch on the maturity? Oh, go ahead.
just before that is that thinking about when you're creating those agents, because I know when I would start learning how to create an agent or a prompt, even just a prompt, because an agent is a very sophisticated prompt. Thinking about some of your LLMs, everyone sometimes assumes that everybody's going out to Google Gemini or going out to ChatGPT, and you're exposed. A lot of organizations actually create their own LLMs within their neural network, within their firewall, so that it's protected and it has just a specific data that is allowed. So therefore, that protects your organization and works within it. Sometimes they're called garden walled. What is another word for that, Mike?
Um, wall garden, is that what you said? Sorry.
Well, yeah, that's okay. Garden wall garden, like when they're within the firewall of the organization. So they're not working with a public LLM. They're working within their own organization. Like you could create your own instance of an LLM.
So, just a quick item here. Every organization starts as reactive. Right? We're not sure what this could do. We don't really have a strategy. We're just kind of playing around. And Jill and Bob are playing with ChatGPT, and they say it's cool, but I say don't leak our IP, out there. I will warn you, if you're using a free tool, it's not free. They're using your information to train those models. So even your $20 a month AI stuff, is challenging. I threw some links in there in the chat earlier around some of the Teams options for early adoption and integration. Moving beyond that to emerging, kind of have a strategy, maybe some governance, but getting pilots out there. And that's really what we're trying to do with getting some of the context we're giving you, and the lean hypothesis too, is that how do you frame pilots? How do you sell pilots? How do you get the time and the ability to make the investments in the pilots? Because that's what's going to drive you to operational and then optimize. We're somewhere, depending on what part of the organization, between the operational and the optimize, with our whole goal to get to super innovative, and think of the organization as an orchestra, where we've got the people, we've got the instruments, and the AI is helping to be our conductor and our roadies too.
So just very quickly going through for change management and change leadership. So a couple of things. You have, when you're thinking about change leadership, you're thinking of leading self, leading teams, and leading organizations. It goes back to a fantastic paper by Peter Drucker back in the 1990s.
Is Christina frozen for you, Mike?
She might be frozen for me. I wondered
She's
if I
frozen for
was.
me, so take it away.
I
Close us
wondered if
out.
I. Yeah,
I
I
have to
wondered if
tell
I.
you, you've been amazing in answering questions as we go along. This is fantastic.
I
But we do have a few minutes left, and I'm sure she'll rejoin us. I'll look for her and promote her if I see her. But yeah,
she
if you
will.
want to give some closing comments, and I will make sure I promote her when she comes back.
Yeah. So, to maybe jump back into this, it's really we got to lead ourselves first,
Mhm.
and we have to find charismatic instigators to get on our teams. Chris Hively wrote the book called Build the Fort, and it's about everything you ever need to know in an entrepreneurial venture. We all learned when we were kids and we built a fort. What do? We found a team, we found a shared dream, we found spare parts, we built something, we saw what worked, and we saw, what didn't work as well. And that's
Mhm.
how we learn. And that's why I say this is both an entrepreneurial journey and an enterprise journey. We've got to start with the toys, and we've got to play. The only way that we're going to learn
Yeah.
is through play. I will. I'm just going to stick here a little bit further, but whoops. Yeah, so I just want to wrap on a couple final thoughts. So, 5 steps. These are the 5 steps that are going to help you accelerate your organization. One, got to increase technology understanding. One way to do that, ELB has some awesome boot camps that they do. Virtually, you can bring your organization. They're focused on your team, help you increase the understanding for what is the art of the possible, and helps you stand up with some prompt engineering. They teach our what we call MDAP, metadata defined agent persona methodology. Then thinking about aligning your learning strategy, not necessarily the learning organization strategy, but how will the organization learn about AI and integrate with the business strategy. And then it's about motivating and shifting mindsets, and the work that we talked about with the lean hypothesis canvas. That's what's going to help you define pilots, get the pilots out there, measure the results of them within the organizational context, and grow them along the way. And then the last thing, and if there's one thing that rarely represents the set of lenses that you really need to look at for the future, and this is what guided us. We were inspired to do AI. We knew there was perspiration, there was work to do, but we had some aspiration as well. And so you started your inspiration today with your silent writing exercise. Why AI? Hopeful outcomes and metrics inside of your organization. And this is the framework for every conversation that you can possibly have around this. What do we need to consider? Security, intellectual property protection, all those things. What are the known unknowns? How are we going to have a secure network to do all this stuff? Where are we going to play at? And then what are the next steps? And then the aspiration side, what are all the use cases that we might have? What are the POCs that we could build to demonstrate the utility of a use case? What data do we have? Because it's really hard to do some use cases without great data. I'll give you a good example. When we're recruiting a new employee, we have an HR agent. We just send it over. We don't talk about benefits. We don't talk about anything. They interface with the agent. The agent gives them everything they need because our HR information is pretty static, doesn't change all that much. Employee handbook, policies, benefits get updated once a year along the way. But then the real organizational sort of work on the aspiration is, what capabilities do we have? What capabilities can we borrow? Can we rent? Can we build? Can we buy along the way? And then the real hard stuff is in, what is our real strategy here? Not just looking out a day, a week, a month. You can't look out 5 years. Let me tell you that, to be really clear. And then how do we handle governance and investments? Having a holistic conversation, getting people excited about the art of the possible, and working through this. These are the key focus areas that we undertook, in our journey. And when we're working with someone to think about their AI accelerator or AI readiness, this is the core of those conversations that need to happen. Bottom line at bottom, as Christina says, the blab, start with the team that believes in the dream. Work across these elements that I just showed you. And these slides will be available as well as downloads for the tools as well. Got to define pilots and prototypes. At the end of the day, if you're in the toy to tool or teammate phase, you got to try stuff. You're going to break stuff, but that will truly help you make stuff.
All
So
right. Yeah, if you don't
go ahead.
mind, I'm just going to go to this ending layout, but I still want Christina, since she's back with us, and you, Mike, to have the last word. We got a couple minutes left, but I'm going to change the layout because what I want our participants to do that are still here, and there's quite a few of you still here, on the far right, there's a poll question. What is the best or most useful idea you learned? Type in that poll area on the far right. You can continue chatting in the middle. And I have to give a shout out and thank you to our sponsor today. And I'm sending you a link where you can check out more resources from them, become a Plus member. But Christina, since you're back, let's start with you. Final word for us, and then Mike.
Thank you so much. And thankfully, I have a hot spot. I always have a backup in case we lose power. It was very windy here in Maine. That the bottom line, like Mike said, is be willing to risk and try. And for example, a lot of the work that we've done that I've been working with is even utilizing ChatGPT to check my emails or my wording to make sure that it's free of specific tones and that I am approaching in an inclusive manner. And then I'll ask it to highlight what what it's changed or recommendation so I can learn from it. So I think somebody earlier said, not working harder, thinking smarter. So I'm really glad that everybody joined us and would love to hear what people would think for a part 3. Mike?
Oh, I'm so glad you said part 3 because several members are saying, is there going to be a part 3? So Mike, any thoughts on what that might look like?
I just go back to JFDAI. Just freaking do it. It's good. It's an eventuality in your organization, and us in learning are the best people to go out into the world and sense it and bring it and package it and help challenge the mindset that's in our organization. If we want to do differently, we need to help everyone think differently.
With that being said, thank you on behalf of Training Magazine Network. Amazing. I felt like one of those people that was barely hanging on and grasping because I know just enough about AI to be dangerous, but I'm going to go forth and be dangerous based on your suggestion. Thank you, Christina, Dr. Bars, and Mike Harushka. Amazing session, and I know we'll have you back. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.